Seattle Community Police Commission meeting. I want to first start with our land acknowledgement. The Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, and Duwamish people past and present. And with humility, we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. And the Seattle Community Police Commission honors and lifts up these tribes, and we hope that this acknowledgement will encourage authentic relationships with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. And thank you for that. And I want to first start with just taking attendance of our commissioners today. I'm going to read out the names, and if you're here, just please acknowledge your presence. Prachi Dave, see you're here. I see you online, even though you're on mute. I'm going to count Prachi as present. Reverend Patricia Hunter is here.
Present.
Reverend Harriet Walden.
Here.
Douglas Wagner is here, I see. Welcome back.
Yep, present.
Joseph Saya. Do not see Joseph Saya. Not present. Alina Santillion.
It's here, and
Not
I'm here.
Dion.
I am here, not it's here. I'm here, and Joseph, his last name is Saya.
Saya, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Erica Newman.
She's absent today and said the word.
Okay, thank you. Tasha Johnson.
Present.
Thank you. And Lajaya Washington does not appear to be present. And Suzette Dickerson, I understand, is also not present.
It will be out today.
Okay. Officer Mark Mullins. I see you here. You're on mute, but I see you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joel Merkel, that's me. I am here. And Jeremy Wood. I see you too on Zoom. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. The first item on our agenda is to I will consider a motion to approve the minutes from the September 21 meeting and the draft agenda for today's meeting. Those materials were sent out in the meeting notice. Is there anyone who would like to put forward a motion to approve today's draft agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda that was distributed.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. At this time, I'll take the votes. Is all in favor of approving today's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. Now, at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the CPC minutes from the September 21 meeting. Is there such a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes from the September 21st meeting.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Reverend Walden. All in favor of approving the minutes from the September 21 meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the minutes from the September 21 meeting are now approved. And with that, do we have the mayor's staff here?
We do not yet, no.
Okay. Are we expecting them at 9:10 or?
We're expecting them exactly at the time, yeah.
Okay. So as everyone can see from the draft agenda at 9:10 a.m., we're two minutes ahead of schedule. We have Mayor Harrell's staff here to discuss the Mayor Harrell's budget and the solidarity budget, and there'll be some discussion and questions opportunity after that.
Actually, I want to make a correction.
Sure.
We will be doing a budget analysis from the CPC staff, and there will be someone here from the mayor's office to be able to respond should we have any questions.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Should I turn it over to you then to?
Yeah, actually, we can go ahead and we can get started.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Director Grant to get started on the proposed budget analysis.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a quick moment to reintroduce our data and policy analyst, Logan Reismus. He's actually going to walk us through a budget analysis of the proposed budget, Mayor Harrell's budget, and then the solidarity budget. We're hoping to have Tim Burgess asked that Andrew Meyerberg be here in attendance today to answer any questions that we may have. If for any reason they should not be able to attend, we will draft something and we will forward it over to the mayor's office. Logan, you have the floor.
Wonderful. Let me get my screen share up and the presentation going. Of course, all of that is in the way. All right, can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. Hi, everyone. As Brandy said, my name is Logan. I use they, he pronouns, and I did a fairly high-level overview analysis of the proposed 2023-2024 budget for Mayor Harrell, as well as the solidarity budget put forth by the community about 2 weeks ago. So to initiate, this is just an overview of the 2022 budget of SPD, kind of as a starting point. I would like to point people's view to the total appropriations here at $355 million for SPD, along with their FTE equivalent totals. To begin, my apologies, getting things kind of set up with Zoom and sharing screen. So some of the key points for each of the budgets, to begin with Mayor Harrell's 2023 budget. The proposed budget for SPD will receive a $20 million increase. So for 2023, the proposed budget from Mayor Harrell will give SPD $375 million, following in 2024, $10 million increase to that as well. The FTEs, full-time equivalent positions, will remain the same for both 2023 and 2024. However, they will have a significant increase from the 2022 budget, which is primarily due to the transfer of parking enforcement officers from SDOT back into SPD. And I'll dig into that in a little bit more in later slides. Just like other departments in the city, SPD was asked to reduce their budget. They received a 3% budget cut. And to hit that number, they have decided to hold open 80 different FTE positions of sworn officers to be held open during the entire target period, which I believe is 2023, could include 2024 as well. That's a point of clarification I would love to ask. And that results in a savings of about $11 million that the SPD is not using. However, there is still 120 FTE sworn officer positions that remain open and vacant. So SPD is reinvesting the saving from those salaries of vacant positions back into the department, into things such as equipment for their training, as well as community safety programs. As I had mentioned, the primary reason for the increase to SPD of $20 million is due to the transfer of parking enforcement officers back to SPD. And that is also a primary reason why the FTE, the full-time equivalent positions, also increases significantly from 2022, as there are 123 positions moving back to SPD. Included in Mayor Harrell's budget as well are $2 million for the development of police alternatives that is outside of SPD. That is housed in the finance general budget line item, and that is up to the city budget office at the discretion of the mayor and city council to use at their discretion in the development of those alternatives. Specifically, Mayor Harrell's 2023 budget gives an additional $700,000 to the already $1.2 million allocated for the development of police alternatives. So with this proposed budget, that fund reaches $2 million. In terms of the solidarity budget that is coming from the community that was presented to city council, I believe 2 weeks ago, they are requesting or demanding that SPD is defunded by 50%. And in the next slide, I'll kind of go over the various aspects of how they would like to see that done. The solidarity budget is also requesting the funding of community-based responses to public safety receive an allocation of $20 million, as well as strongly against the implementation or the re-implementation of the park ranger program with the Seattle Parks Department. The solidarity budget is really focused on not increasing what they call soft cops, folks who might not be traditional gun and badge police officers, but will continue to engage with the public in a similar manner. The solidarity budget is also requesting that the city match hiring incentives that are given to SPD for all service providers in public safety, such as crisis response, homelessness services, and housing services. So that would be $30,000 hiring bonus for lateral hires and $7,500 for new hires into the field, into the profession. Much of the solidarity budget is focused on SPD as well as just the traditional carceral system. And so I included a quote from their budget that states defunding SPD also means divesting from the rest of the punishment pipeline and ending misdemeanor criminalization as the default response to conflict, harm, and need in the city of Seattle. The last portion that I wanted to highlight within the solidarity budget is they are calling for a large increase into the participatory budgeting funds. So currently, the city of Seattle allocates $30 million for the community to participate in the allocation of those funds. The solidarity budget is demanding that those funds be increased to $60 million for 2023, and then each year add another $5 million until that participatory budget fund is up to $200 million. Okay. Next, this will be the description of how the solidarity budget would like to see the defunding of SPD to be carried out. Initially, they would like to see that the elimination of position authority and the corresponding funding for ghost positions. These would be the empty positions that SPD has no plans to fill next year. And I believe these would include the 120 vacant positions that the salary savings are being reinvested back into the department. They would also like to see a reduction in funding for existing positions and the funding for new hires and hiring incentives and police spending on new technology, new buildings, new weapons, and police public relations. Ensure expanded public safety responses are placed outside of SPD. In addition, end the hiring and retention bonuses for SPD, plus shift this funding to compensate culturally appropriate treatment providers to best serve all of our various communities. Remove SPD from traffic enforcement entirely and cease officer patrols and stops for speeding and other traffic violations. Remove crash responses and crash data collection from the jurisdiction of SPD. And finally, ensure that revenue from traffic ticketers is reinvested into Safe Street projects and not directed into the overall general fund. So these are the steps or the action items that the solidarity budget would like to see taken in order to defund SPD by their requested 50%. This next slide here contains a snapshot from the proposed 2023 and 2024 budgets produced by Mayor Harrell. You can see that the proposed budget for SPD in 2023 is the $375 million, about a $20 million increase from 2022. And then you can see another $10 million increase from into 2024. However, I was not able to find the line item that indicates where the $10 million increase for 2024 would be coming from or where it would be going to, where those funds would be allocated within the department. To break down Mayor Harrell's budget a little bit, as I mentioned, the proposed budget for 2023 of SPD is $375 million, with a total increase of around $20 million from the 2022 budget. This is, as mentioned, primary due to the increase, or the increase is primarily due to the transfer of the parking enforcement officers back to SPD. This is occurring because when the parking enforcement officers were transitioned out of SPD into SDOT a few years ago, the infrastructure for the parking enforcement officers remained in SPD. So all of their technology, their IT support, their human resources support, all remained in SPD. They still wore police officer uniforms, badges, and still operated as if they were members of SPD, but didn't have that same support. And so transferring the parking enforcement officers back to SPD actually alleviates or saves roughly $5 million in recreating that support structure in SDOT, the Seattle Department of Transportation. Mayor Harrell has indicated that this transition back to SPD may not be permanent. It is just what is best in his eyes to do at the moment to address the labor concerns for the parking enforcement officers, as well as address the budget shortfall this year. Realizing now I have not mentioned that the city of Seattle is facing a $144 million budget shortfall, which has resulted in every department in the city receiving a budget cut. And so that is one of the biggest reasons why Mayor Harrell's budget, every department is receiving a cut, including SPD, but because of their vacant officer positions, it does look like they're getting a $20 million increase, as well as from the parking enforcement transition. Yes, so the SPD did receive that 3% budget cut due to the revenue shortfall, and they've decided to hold open 80 different sworn positions to recuperate $11 million in savings, and that is savings not being reinvested back into the department. However, 120 officer positions do remain vacant, and the salary savings of roughly $17 million is being reinvested back into the department. And the next slide will indicate the various aspects that reinvestment is going towards. So for equipment and technology upgrades, that is going to be about $2.3 million from those salary savings. 1.3 is for the funding of equipment replacement, such as service weapons, the replacement of the bullet trap at a firing range, funding to keep up with the rising cost of ammunition due to inflation, and the purchase of less lethal means, increasing tasers throughout the department. There's also $1 million allocation for the funding of a gunfire detection system known as ShotSpotter in the South Seattle communities. $4.2 million is also being reinvested into the department for recruitment and retention to help combat the historically low numbers of current officers. And then of the salary savings, just under $500,000 is being allocated to community safety program enhancements as well. As I mentioned in the overview slides, the proposed budget of 2023 does add an additional $700,000 in the finance general for the development of policing alternatives. This is in addition to the current $1.2 million for the alternative development, resulting in roughly $2 million total for the development of policing alternatives. It was not very clear in the budget what the process is for the development of those policing alternatives, other than the mayor's office is working with city council and their staff to identify what those alternatives could be and where they will be placed within the city. It is important to note that the $2 million that is allocated to the development of policing alternatives is just 0.05% of the overall SPD budget. And so pretty stark contrast between the traditional gun and badge policing of Seattle and the investment within policing alternatives. This is just a graphical representation of the 2023 general fund breakdown. We can see here that public safety is roughly 50% of the total general fund. And then the other 5 departments that make up the majority of the Seattle city government. The next slide, I have pulled out SPD to represent their portion of public safety and compared to the remaining departments as well. So essentially, this is the same graph as last time, just indicating SPD's specific portion of the entire general fund budget. So SPD gets roughly about a quarter of the entire general fund budget. Finally, the impact and perceptions and other developments kind of from the budget. There has been mixed reception around the deployment of ShotSpotter in the Rainier Beach community. Kathy William Moore from the Seattle Neighborhood Group was quoted in a Cairo article saying that research has shown that the effects of the ShotSpotter technology are damaging to communities of color. It's unreliable and results in false alarms and conflicts within our communities. Additionally, there's a strong trend in the media coverage highlighting a large investment differences between the traditional gun and badge policing and the development alternatives. There's also a very large trend in the media that SPD is the only department not facing a budget cut due to the revenue shortfall, even though they did get the 3% budget cut, but the transfer of the parking enforcement officers makes it seem as though they did not receive a budget cut. And finally, the 2023 and 2024 budgets do speak a little bit towards the development of a third public safety department in 2024. However, there was no line item in the budget providing any details around what this third public safety department could look like. There's just a hope that it could be up and running in 2024. Yeah. And then finally, some questions and follow-up topics that I had after kind of doing initial overview of both budgets. Primarily within the 2023 proposed budget from Mayor Harrell, some questions regarding specific budget changes for departments in SPD. For example, there's a $9 million increase for the Chief of Police budget line, and I'm happy to kind of go over this more in detail with any commissioners who might be interested. There's also a total FTE amount changes for SPD that I couldn't quite get to add up correctly on my end, but I'm assuming that's more of just a personal error, calculating error, and I would still love to chat with somebody from the mayor's office to kind of go over those FTE allocations. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, there wasn't any accounting for the $10 million increase, where that would be coming from and where it would be going in the department for 2024. And that brings me to the end of my budget analysis of Mayor Harrell's proposed budget and the solidarity budget. Now would be a great time for any reactions, questions from commissioners, or anything folks would like me to further explain or go into more detail about.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a lot, Logan, and you digested a ton of stuff. So thank you so very,
Fantastic
very
work,
much.
Logan.
My question is, I'm not quite sure what police alternatives are. So can you help me understand that? And if there was somebody from the mayor's office, I would have asked them, but they're not here.
Totally. So from my assumptions and understanding policing.
Can I just interject real
Yeah.
quick? Brian Maxey is actually on the call,
Oh.
and I think we should butt that to SPD. To
Okay.
answer that for us.
Thank
just so
you.
we don't have to make any assumptions.
Thank you.
Just, and I think that's a great question. I actually had it wrote down as a follow-up, but
Okay.
it looks like Mr. Maxey is here.
Great.
And Brian, I believe you can.
So
unmute your-
the question is, what are policing alternatives?
Correct.
So I'm going to have to defer to the mayor's office and city council that are working on the term sheet that's been recently discussed at the Public Safety Committee, where they are diving deep and looking at what alternatives could exist in terms of other dispatched resources, or how we address the desire to have alternatives to police response. Particularly around mental health calls or other low acuity calls. So they are currently taking the lead on developing those items. So I would need to defer to them. I can tell you that we at SPD are very interested in developing alternatives for online reporting and telephone reporting to take many of our low acuity calls that either are very delayed in the response or perhaps receive no response, to ensure that that level of call is managed and we actually have the information on that a wider basis as to those crimes. happy to answer any more specific questions to the best of my ability, but really I need to defer to the mayor's office and city council's work group.
I believe Newell is here. If Newell might possibly be able to respond to that.
Thank you, Co-Chair and Executive Director. I can send you materials that have been presented the last few Public Safety and Human Services Committee about the ongoing work that Mr. Maxey mentioned between the mayor's office and council staff about the term sheet. It lays out the working relationship and expectations and goals. One of the goals is to have some kind of pilot program set up on a shorter timeline, as well as work on a longer timeline. Potential examples could be calls for low-level mental health. Just the broad concept is for 911 calls that don't require a sworn officer to respond. That's more or less just the concept in one sentence. Are there areas where you don't need a police officer to be the person to respond to that? And I'll certainly send the information that we have that sort of lays it out in a few pages.
I have a comment. I'm looking at the budget and I'm gonna step away from the chair and speak as a community representative for Mothers Police Accountability. We support most of the budget in the mayor's budget. We support the shot spotter. It was in the budget before under Murray. And a lot of people who are speaking might not, even though the African American lady, I don't know who she is, with this neighborhood group, there's another opinion out there. And those voices need to be heard. Also around public safety, firemen are being attacked more now. I mean, so now a lot of times when the fire department's going out now, they're demanding police escorts because of what's been happening to firemen. Also, this is the highest homicide sale has had in a long time. 46 people have been killed. And so I just want to say for the public record, Mothers will be absolutely advocating for the shot spotter because we need to really look at how we can actually decrease violence in Seattle, and especially in the affected area. A lot of people talk about the affected area, but they're not sitting with the mothers who are crying. They're not actually it's a broad talk. It's a broad talk about the affected areas, but to be with the families who have experienced and some amount of violence, unprecedented in Seattle for a long time. I mean, we had this in the 90s, but we have not had this level in a long time. So anyway, that's my comment on it, and I'll step back as being a co-chair.
I'd like to just add something to Reverend Walden. I appreciate you stepping away from the chair and speaking from Mothers for Police Accountability. But I also want to say as a commission, it's time for us to also revisit the conversation about the shot spotter and decide what our stance is in relation to it and how we can either support it or do some type of research to find out if it is something that we want to be behind. My previous work that led me to the commission, I worked for an agency that was in extreme support of the shot spotter. I have my personal feelings about it. However, as the ED of this commission, I know I can't take a stance without being able to move forward with you all, but it is something that I personally support.
Are there any commissioners that have any thoughts on just picking up on the conversation from Reverend Walden and Director Grant? Is there any commissioners out there who have any thoughts about the shot spotter program within the budget proposal?
It looks like Douglas has their hand up.
Okay. Commissioner Wagner?
Thanks. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard. It seems like information that I've seen online and stuff I've heard anecdotally from folks who work in other jurisdictions. It seems like the accuracy of shot spotter is in question, and that could lead to a bunch of different negative outcomes if, you know, we're sharing information with police and they're responding to situations where they think that there's gunfire, but there is none. You know, are we implementing unnecessary surveillance tools, which create a whole other host of concerns for the sake of a, you know, program that may or may not be super accurate, and also kind of where is it deployed? I think, you know, Logan, you were saying it's time, you know, there's interest in putting it in kind of South Seattle neighborhoods. Yeah, so I guess I would want to learn more. You know, if we could dig into this a little bit deeper and kind of get some firmer answers on it. But for me, I just kind of feel dubious about it at this point. Again, just based on what I'm aware of, it seems less than perfectly reliable or ideally reliable. Newell, I'm also interested in the parking enforcement piece. So, I mean, it seems like that was at least a somewhat significant portion of the boost to SPD budget. You know, I'm wondering kind of what the logic behind that is. You know, do we have any sense of how well parking enforcement went when it wasn't being run by SPD? And also, you know, again, I'm interested in the kind of thought behind that, because it seems like if, you know, the interest is to boost 911 response times and kind of affect public safety in a positive way, I'm not sure. It seems like parking enforcement wouldn't really get that done, you know?
If that's a question for me, I would, this is the mayor's proposed budget, so I would need to defer to the mayor's office on the thinking involved in the proposed budget.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. And I think I would just note that it does not appear that any staff from the mayor's office is here. I believe we were expecting them to be here to answer questions like that. So we'll have to communicate with them again to see if we can bring them back and answer some of those good questions. Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Does anyone else, any other commissioner have any thoughts about ShotSpotter or anything else within the budget presentation?
Officer Mullins.
Officer, I'm sorry, yeah, I can't see everyone on my,
I'm watching. I
You
just
are-
didn't see his hand.
okay, sure. Officer Mullins.
Sure. Can I be heard?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. You're on mute, Officer Mullins.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Okay. All right. ShotSpotter. I'd like to make a comment about that. Having worked in the south of Seattle my entire career, 32 years, I know the culture, and if I'm a police officer responding to a shooting, I am not going to get all the information or a lot of the pertinent information I need to get from citizens. Because of the culture, some people don't like to talk to the police. Some people don't like to give information. Some people don't want to be considered a snitch. Understandable. You got to live in that neighborhood. I totally understand that in certain instances. But we understand when someone's willing to use a gun on the streets, firing a weapon at someone with the intent of hurting them, they probably need to go somewhere. They probably need to get out of our midst for a little while. So I'm here as we're here as an entity to try to keep the community safe. At the same time, I do understand when people don't want to necessarily feel comfortable with telling the police what just happened. So if we have spot shotter, or shot spotter, we can kind of help ourselves in terms of police work. We can kind of do the investigation as best we can, maybe without a few witnesses, or maybe without witnesses, we can go in a direction. As we go into an area where shots have been fired, right now, all we are going on is what dispatch tells us, which is not very much, other than the fact that it's in a certain area and some people have heard the shots. At least with ShotSpotter, we have direction, and a lot of information can be given to us to assist us in trying to stop these shootings from happening. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, Officer Mullins. I see Commissioner Wood has his hand up. Commissioner Wood?
Thank you very much. I had hoped to ask this question to mayor's staff, and I will if they join us. But following on Commissioner Wagner's question, I understand that the mayor is currently justifying the move of traffic enforcement or back to SPD on cost benefits to SDOT. Given obviously that this has been a point of concern with community to move these functions out of the department, out of SPD. I'm curious what efforts the mayor's office made to explore other cost reduction efforts for SDOT before landing on this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. And I do agree that that would be helpful to have the mayor's office here to answer questions like that. So we will hopefully get the mayor's office here to do just that. But thank you for that question. Are there any other questions or comments or discussion on the proposed budget analysis? I know there's a lot there, and we've already discussed a couple specifics like the parking enforcement shot spotter. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions or discussion?
Is there any data? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Elena, go ahead.
Oh, is there any data on the accuracy of shot spotter? Because I with Douglas also, I don't know much about that or how accurate it is, and it would be helpful to see that because my inclination is that would be my inclination if it is some kind of surveillance tool, especially in a predominantly like Black community. I mean, we see that historically. We can look back on a lot of things historically, how those tools are used. So I think in terms of like data, that would be helpful, just and pertinent information in this conversation for people to know how accurate that actually is.
Eileen, I'm in the process of drafting an email. It was shared with me from our OIG office that the Chicago Office of Inspector General have ran an impact study on the use of the shot spotter. I'm going to send that around with the presentation that was provided for you all today, okay?
Perfect. That's awesome and helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. I see a couple more hands. I'll go to.
Well, in my hand.
Oh, and we'll do Reverend Hunter. Sorry.
Thank you. I guess the shot spotter, it's a pilot program. I support that. I just think there's way too much gun violence in this city, and any pilot program that might help stop some of this violence. I'm supportive of the pilot program. And then doing an analysis after this pilot is completed to see how effective it was here in Seattle. I appreciate seeing the solidarity budget that was presented, but defunding the police by 50% for me is totally unworkable. as someone who had their car vandalized this week that is now no longer drivable and will probably, repairs will cost anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000. I am really tired of the violence and the burglaries and in this city. And so I cannot support the solidarity budget. So that's my comments for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. I also saw Commissioner Dave, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And actually, I was just going to say, in addition to the OIG report that that Executive Director Grant mentioned, there are several other resources and studies that have been done with respect to ShotSpotter. So I will send those over to you, Director Grant, so that perhaps you can share them with the rest of the commission in terms of resources to consider the way in which ShotSpotter has previously been deployed, because I agree it might be piloted here, but of course it's been utilized in a lot of other locations, and that's where a lot of this data is coming from. So just wanted to flag that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dave. And I see Officer Mullins, you have your hand up, sir. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Just real quickly, again with ShotSpotter, why is it only being thought about being deployed in the South End? Why just the South End? Why not the entire city?
That seems to me to be a great question for the mayor's office, who is proposing this pilot program.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I just heard Reverend Walden mention, and to your point, Commissioner Mullins, we had shootings in the University District this weekend, and there's been shootings all over the city and in North Seattle. So I think that's an
Shootings have been
absolutely
increasing in North Seattle.
and that's an absolutely fair point, and it would be useful to hear from the mayor's office the thinking behind limiting the geographic scope of the pilot project.
Have a comment.
Yes, Reverend Walden.
Maybe since the slogan is so good, I'm so glad to have you. Maybe we can look at the shots and see the last few shootings. I mean, the increase in the shootings. We see exactly what area they're coming from. I mean, because I think it's really good to have a snapshot of Seattle and come out, from what's happening. And I think for me, I just have been doing this work for a long time and lived a long time. I think we have to come to terms that there's a lot of violence in our community, and it's affecting a lot of people. I mean, elderly people, and I got to be one of them now. But all over, and I think that having tools to be able to help with that and to create a safe city. I mean, I think it's time for us to think about safety for everyone. And I'm hoping that the city council will be a little bit more deliberate this time than they were in 2020 to see how everything fits together. I mean, because if we had seen how everything fits together, we might not be in this place where we are today.
I have a quick question for Newell about, well, specifically ShotSpotter. Can you shed any light on to what extent the mayor's office has had conversations with the city council about ShotSpotter? Is this something new and surprising, or have conversations been ongoing? To what degree has there been communication with the city council on this budget proposal?
Good. Thanks, Co-Chair Merkel. We, I think, had heard of the potential for it to be included in the budget. Hadn't heard anything directly though, so it is relatively new. So there hadn't been a whole lot in the way of any outreach about it before the budget was released.
Okay, thank you, Newell. thank you for everyone's comments and questions and discussion. I don't want to cut it off. So does anyone else have any other thoughts about the budget that they'd like to raise at this time? And again, I think I want to emphasize that this is probably, I think most certainly not going to be the last opportunity to ask questions and to discuss the budget. So don't feel like this is the moment you need to ask everything. We're all consuming it and digesting it. It's a new thing. It's a lot to take in. And Logan, you did a fantastic job with a high level summary. So this is not going to be the last time that we're going to talk about it. But with that said, is there any other comments or thoughts that people would like to contribute at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So with that, I think we are ready to head into the public comment portion of our agenda. And it's now 9:50, which puts us exactly on time. As the CPC does welcome public comment, individual speakers will be provided up to 2 minutes to comment on items on the meeting agenda. And so with that, I'll ask Director Grant whether there's anyone who wishes to make public comment.
Let me double check. Yes, looks like we have Howard Gale. Give me just a second to reshare the screen. And also, my apologies, let me check and make sure the OCPC account has not received any emails for public comment first.
I'll also mention Andrew Meyerberg just joined along with Lisa Judge.
Oh,
Lisa's from the OIG office, but Andrew joined.
Yeah, Andrew joined.
should we ask the mayor's office if there's any?
Wiggle room for them to respond to some of the questions that have
Yeah,
come up?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm seeing that Andrew Meyerberg from the mayor's office has just joined us. There were a number of questions that were asked during the budget discussion. And if I could just table the public comment for a few minutes to give Andrew Meyerberg the opportunity to answer some questions. If there are, I don't want to put words in commissioners' mouths. So if there are commissioners that had questions for the mayor's office, now would be the time to re-ask those questions. Yes, I see Commissioner Jeremy Wood.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the representation from the mayor's office. As I noted before, it's been a consistent concern raised in the last few years to move functions away from the SPD that don't necessarily have to be in the SPD. Obviously, traffic enforcement was one of those, and so there's been concerns, and I have deep concerns that it's being moved back into SPD. I understand that that's being justified by meaningful cost savings to SDOT, which I can appreciate given broader budget shortfalls. However, my question to the mayor's office is what steps or what options the mayor's office explored as alternatives to find those cost savings before deciding to move traffic enforcement back to SPD.
So it's a good question. I mean, I think in developing the mayor's budget, there was a number of areas that were looked at as far as issues that needed to be funded and issues that were priorities for the mayor. I think also keep in mind that we were operating in a significant shortfall. So realistically, I think the mayor's office was trying to fund important projects while at the same time trying to cut costs where appropriate. And it seemed from our perspective that both functionally and budgetarily, it made sense at this point to shift the PEOs back. Your question obviously is a deeper question of which I can do more research, but that's the preliminary answer I can give at this point.
I appreciate that, Mr. Maverick. Yeah, if there could be a further look into what alternatives were explored, I'd appreciate that.
Is there any other questions for mayor's office.
Reverend Hunter.
Reverend Hunter, sorry.
I would like to, my question was about policing alternatives and what exactly that meant to the mayor's office. And increased funding for policing alternatives or police alternatives.
So the mayor's office has been working with the council and others and other stakeholders to develop, literally alternatives to a gun and badge response to calls. So, if there's a person down, call a welfare check, or, another call that could be medical in nature or crisis in nature, as opposed to a ongoing crime. Is there a better alternative to a police officer that could be sent? So part of that's going to involve looking at a pilot program, and that's something that, again, was discussed between the council and the mayor's office, and that will cost money. So I think the city is budgeting money towards some sort of a pilot program that will be rolled out hopefully in the next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Myberg, this is, Douglas Wagner, go ahead.
Thanks. My question is related to Commissioner Wood's question. So I'm just wondering kind of what's the logic behind bringing parking enforcement back under SPD? Because it seems like if the goal of the budget is to boost 911 response times and kind of affect public safety, that strategy, may not really affect those goals. And I'm also wondering if you have any sense of kind of how parking enforcement went when it wasn't under SPD.
So for your first question, I'm not sure that I understand or necessarily agree with the premise. Are you saying that shifting PEOs back to SPD would not increase response times? I guess I'm not following.
So those, I think it was 120 FTEs. If they're, are they only doing parking enforcement, or are they gonna, have a expanded kind of purview or scope of responsibilities when they move back under SPD? At least it's my understanding of the budget, and I could be wrong, so feel free to, help educate me here. Is that, these are employees who were doing parking enforcement, just doing parking enforcement, but not doing it under SPD, and now they're moving back under SPD to do parking enforcement. And so, I'm curious what the kind of logic or strategy there is.
Well, yeah, I guess to answer the question, I think the strategy is that the POs effectively engage in those activities while under SPD. There's a number of data systems and other things that they access on a regular basis that function best through SPD. Shifting them over to another department costs money. So then shifting them back would save a significant amount of money without undermining their operational capabilities and capacity. I'm not sure if that answers your question or that I understand the question.
I think it does partly. So are they doing more than parking enforcement?
So the PEO's primary job functions will not shift. I mean, they're gonna do the same things that they're doing before, unless new responsibilities are bargained with them and the other police unions.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Myberg, this is Joel Merkel, co-chair, Police Commission. One question that I heard that the commission had discussed and a number of commissioners had raised, and I'll try my best to summarize this, was with respect to the ShotSpotter pilot program. And one question that came up was the proposal appears to be to do a pilot program within South Seattle. And one question that was discussed was there's an increase in shootings in a lot of different areas of the city as well, most recently in the University District. So maybe you could shed some light on the thinking behind limiting the geographic area of ShotSpotter pilot program to South Seattle.
So just to be clear, the mayor's budget calls for an acoustic gunshot locator, not ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter's a company. We're looking at the concept. So we would eventually explore and have to put out an RFP or some request for proposals from a number of companies that could do this work. We have seen just data wise, we have seen upticks in gunshots across the city. University District obviously had an uptick this weekend, which was incredibly unfortunate. But when we look at our data, we still see higher rates of guns activity in South Seattle. I mean, that's just what our data shows. So that would be the idea, would be to focus a pilot in that area. And then if it's successful, would be to move to other areas of the city. But again, I think we have an obligation, again, under the charter to keep people safe. And this is a technology that we think could theoretically do so. So that's why we're exploring the pilot.
I don't know, Officer Mullins, did you have your hand up?
No.
Nope, he's shaking his head no. Okay. Are there any other commissioners that have any thoughts or questions for Mayor's office?
So I'll get back to, I think it was Commissioner Wood. I'll get back to the question about what other alternatives were explored rather than shifting the PEOs back to SPD to save costs. Were there any other, Doug, I don't know if I answered your question fully. Is there anything else that's outstanding that you want me to go back and get more information and come back and present to the CPC?
I will say generally, this is not going to be the last time the CPC discusses the budget. And, this is the first time that we're discussing the 2023 budget, but it won't be the last. And we would ask for continued participation and engagement with the mayor's office moving forward so that we can continue to have this conversation and dialogue.
Right. And then Andrew, Director Meyerberg, I also want to add too that there were a few points of clarity that was needed throughout the budget analysis that was done. So we'll be preparing something and putting it together and sending it over to you, hopefully for you to be able to come back and address to the full commission if you're open to that. We would really appreciate it.
I see Commissioner Johnson has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering if there was an ETA on the policing alternatives, on coming up with those policing alternatives. I don't recall hearing a date to when those conversations are planning to be wrapped up or concluded or decided, I guess.
So the current discussions around a pilot program are governed by a term sheet between the mayor's office and council central staff. I'll have to pull the term sheet to look at the dates to the extent there are any dates, but I believe it's shooting for a 2023 pilot program. But keep in mind, that's only a small portion of policing alternatives. The larger kind of paradigm for policing alternatives will likely be a 2024 and 2025 proposition, just because of the amount of logistical challenges, collective bargaining, and other issues that will play into that. So it'll be tiered, to answer your question. Pilot will be around 2023, and then other rollouts will be later in 2024 and beyond.
Okay. Is there a timeline that we could see as to what this would look like?
Yeah, as far as the
like the tiers
program,
and how that
the tiered. Yeah, I'll touch base with the team that's driving this work, and it'll be one of the things I'll report back to the CPC on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank
and
you.
again, apologies that I was late, and sorry for not being able to answer these questions in real time.
Thank you for that. And thank you for being here today, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
Great.
And with that, I believe that now does bring us to the public comment. And Director Grant, I understand there's some member of the community that wish to contribute.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can, and if you're ready to start.
Sure. Okay. So just a couple of points here. I think it is important for the public and for historical reference. In June of 2020, during Black Lives Matter, during George Floyd, there was a vote in the Community Police Commission on specifically defunding by 50%. That vote was 12 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain. It was an overwhelming vote to defund. In fact, 7 commissioners at that time still remain on the CPC. So again, it's important for the public to understand that history, which seems to have gotten left behind. As regards to ShotSpotter, it is a horribly flawed system, and asking for data is really not the point. It's a proprietary system, and so the data is simply held by ShotSpotter and is not available to the public. It's not available for any kind of scientific or analysis. So I would recommend that anyone that's really seriously interested in this go to the website cancelshotspotter.com. That's cancelshotspotter.com. And there's tons of information there, including articles about people, for instance, in Chicago, who, because of ShotSpotter, have actually ended up incarcerated. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. I know usually this is a time where we ask if commissioners or someone would like to respond, and I actually would like to respond back to Dr. Gale and have the floor. As always, I appreciate your comments and ability to be so dutiful about participating in these meetings and giving us your feedback. I, however, request that any community members, commissioners that are listening to the comment that you made about that it needs to be canceled and it's ineffective and how harmful it is, use and dig down really deep to do the research on your own, because when you hear from community members who have actually lost loved ones and have experienced that, and I'm someone that has experienced that insurmountable amount of grief, I think it is really unfortunate to give out information to community members about something being ineffective when we actually haven't had an opportunity to do the full research. I do know that there are definitely issues around accuracy. I know that there are issues around surveillance. I've come to learn in all my 43 years on this planet that there's always going to be an issue. There's always going to be some kind of concern. However, we have to do something. There are multiple lives being taken on a regular and day-to-day basis. And to think that there's not enough significant data out there, or there's not any data out there, implies that you know something that we all do not. And I'm not appreciative of that today. I think it is disrespectful to families and people that have lost loved ones. And I would ask that when you make comments and you come to our meetings, to make sure that you back them up with things and you share that this is just your opinion only and not based in any type of fact. I'm highly disappointed in the comment about the ShotSpotter. And again, it is very, like I said, I mentioned earlier, this is not about me being the executive director. This is me just being a community member, a mother. And I do see the benefits, but like I said, I also understand that there are concerns, but you cannot speak on behalf of an entire community and a community that you're actually not even a part of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion about the public comment today?
I'd like to say I support the director, Director Brad, as she stepped away from that position and gave her opinion and her lived experience. And I think we need more lived experience at the table and around Seattle, because people who speak for us have not lived with us. And it's time to push back on the people who want to speak for us, but have not lived with us, have not sat with people on both sides of the equation. Police brutality and working for police accountability is a long time issue. But it's time to have a balance in our community. We need to do both, and we need to be willing to walk a parallel track to be able to say, yes, this is over here, this is a righteous issue that has been plaguing us ever since the end of slavery. But this is another issue here that's taken away our young people. And we need to be strong enough for the people who want to tell us what's best for us to say, no, you don't know what's best for us. We know what's best for us. It's time for us to chart the course that says we know what's best for us. And the voices who come and want to tell us what to do. I mean, it's like paternal situation. And it's sort of just like the slave and the plantation home. Somebody will always know what's best for us. But we're grown today. We've grown up in America. 159 years since Lincoln signed the paper. We're really grown. We know how to stand on our own and to speak for ourselves.
Thank you, Reverend Walden, and thank you, Director Grant. Is there any additional discussion at this time?
All I want to say is that I don't know what the commission voted as far as defunding the police in 2020, but I am not supportive of defunding the police. Certainly not to the point of 50%. So if the commission wanted to take another vote, we might consider doing that. But I don't think that would pass in the way that it might have done in the past. And I don't know if Dr. Gale's numbers are even accurate.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter.
Okay, any more public comment? Okay, so now we will move forward with commission updates and any updates with the co-chairs. And I'm gonna ask Commissioner Merkel if you'll talk about the letter that some of the commissioners may have received.
Right, yes, thank you. So as a co-chair update, this is something we've been mentioning in the last few meetings. We have a number of commissioner vacancies, as y'all know. And we also have a number of commissioners whose term expire at the end of this year. I wanted to let everyone know that the Director Grant has sent a letter to the appointing authorities, the City Council and the Mayor's Office, encouraging and asking them to select and approve commissioners as soon as possible. We want to have a full commission that is operating on all cylinders, a fully commissioned work group on all of our work groups. And we really want to hit the ground running in January in the new year with a fully staffed commission and all full bevy of commissioners. So with that, with respect to the commissioners whose term expire at the end of this year, it's really important that we know if you want to continue serving. Firstly, we thank you for your service, and if you want to continue serving, we would welcome that. But we would also ask you to let us know as soon as possible. I know we sent out a letter to each of the commissioners whose term expired at the end of this year, asking to let us know and the appointing authority know by October 19. That is the date of the next scheduled commission meeting. Although that commission meeting may or may not happen, we'll have more details on that later. But we do need to know very soon whether you intend on continuing to serve. And if you do, fantastic. Just let us know and recommit to the work so that the City Council has the time necessary to put the folks that want to continue serving through the appointment process and confirmation process to the City Council. So that is the update from the co-chair, at least for me. We're really trying to make an effort to have 21 commissioners starting in January. As everyone knows, the 2017 accountability ordinance set out that the CPC has 21 commissioners, and we want to make sure that each commission spot is filled. I see Commissioner Wood has a question.
Hi, thank you. So I believe that the term I stepped into does expire at the end of the year. I did not receive one of these letters.
I will go back and confirm that, Commissioner Wood. The data that I had did not reflect that.
And it's actually your term, not your seat's term. So you're fine, Commissioner Wood. That's the reason why you didn't receive notification.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. The
Right.
website still says my term expires December 31st.
And just
22.
Commissioner Wood, the data that I have shows that your appointing authority is the mayor's office and your term expires December 31 of 23. So you're
Okay.
good.
Thank you. Great.
And during the next appointment process, which should be in November, there will be some updates made to clarify what you ought to reconcile what you're seeing on the website and what actually should be in the roster. So if there's ever any clarification that's needed, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Are there any other co-chair? Oh, you're facilitating. I'm sorry.
Quite all right. No worries. As long as we get to the same goal here. I don't have anything else to add. Reverend Walden? Okay, all right. Director Grant, would you give us an update, please?
Absolutely. So a couple of things I wanted to do a little bit of a backtrack regarding a few of the updates that would have been given during the last meeting that we had regarding the Public Safety and Human Services Committee that came via Mr. Newell that he had shared with me. He had to step out that during the previous briefing, they were working on a research and demand management study, which is a follow-up to the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform. It was published last year. The study analyzed the original call classification, and then also too, it included how the call was resolved as well. Also too, just wanted to mention to you all that as you all heard during the budget analysis that Logan went over, that they also made an announcement during the briefing that the council central staff will also be working on the alternative to 911 response. So I think we're definitely on par based on what we discussed here in today's meeting about the questions that we've raised to Director Meyerberg and that we'll be following up on. Outside of the council updates that we were unable to share last time, I wanted to take a moment to introduce our new communications advisor. Megan Clark is joining us today, and I just wanted to give her a couple minutes to introduce herself to all of you. She's here in person, and we're just so happy to have her.
Well, thank you so much. A lot of work to do is what I'm seeing. For those of you who want to know what I've been doing, I am a former national journalist. I ran investigative units. I've covered health and science for a number of years, doing nationally syndicated medical stories, doing some political reporting. And I hope to bring some of those kind of journalistic skills and content creation to the work that the commission is doing. So thank you.
Welcome. And then operationally, outside of new staff that have been joining us, which I've been really eager and excited about. I'm looking forward to you all having an opportunity to get to work with them and get to know them. We have also finished our not complete move. We're in our new space. We're still getting organized and set up. And the game plan is to have the office ready, hopefully by the end of the year. Also too, just wanted to give an update about the annual report so you all are aware. We're going to revisit and look at what we have left to finish and see if it is doable for us to do amongst the staff, or will it be something that we'll start to outsource out, just so we have a better process and flow of how we'll be doing annual reports in the future. Our game plan also is to have that done before the end of the year, and hopefully, God willing, be able to introduce the annual report in some form of a public meeting, maybe have some better news about being post-pandemic, and maybe we can do that in person. Thank you, everyone. So two things, actually, I'm going to backtrack on. I wanted to share with everyone, for those of you that have not known, three things. I actually want to thank Felicia Cross, Director Cross, for all of her help while we've been in transition. It has been extremely helpful. It's kept my head above ground. I got to see just how strong, my team was. It's given us an opportunity to get closer and work together as directors. So I want to thank her for stepping up and just being really supportive during this time. I also want you all to give her a moment and acknowledge her. Director Cross actually received an invitation from Dubai, an international group, to come and speak and be a subject matter expert as their keynote speaker to talk about community policing. and community engagement. I'm super proud of her. I know she typically does not like to have a lot of kudos, but that is something that whether she likes it or not, she's gonna get today because she's deserving of it and it's well deserved. I want to just give you all an opportunity to know just how phenomenal the people you have that are working behind the scenes for you all to uplift this work of the commission. So if you have an opportunity, send her an email, give her a quick phone call, thank her for the work that she's done and the work that she's being recognized for.
Thank you, Felicia.
Yes.
Wonderful work.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Felicia.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Incredible. Yeah. Yes, I thank you, Director Grant and Cross, for all the work that you have done in this season of transition. And I know that it has been had some challenging days, but you all persevered and I am grateful. So thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate that. And then finally, just wanted to give an update to the staff. We will all be at the International Association of Chief of Police's conference, October 14th through the 19th. We will be participating in that, and it will be pretty much the entire team. It gives us an opportunity to do a little bit more of an in-depth onboarding than what has been traditionally done at the commission, to get a full understanding of the work that we do, but also to partnerships and the bridge that we are actually supposed to be building between the commission and SPD. It gives us an opportunity to have a deeper dive and in-depth conversations with law enforcement and to see some of the work that they're doing, some of the alternatives. I'm looking forward to being able to introduce some of the newer folks to some of our counterparts that are right here with us locally. We had put together a presentation of the high-level takeaways that we have received at NAPOL. But as you all saw, when the Office of Independent Investigations came, we had a really robust conversation and weren't able to get to that. However, we will, once returning from this particular event, we will be sharing the NAPOL experience, some work alternatives, and some ideas for research and work to put forth before the commission. We will do that with IAPP as well. That will traditionally be the standard moving forward when we participate in things. But I want to really highly encourage commissioners. As a former commissioner, there are opportunities to be a part of a lot of these conferences and trainings. And I know for myself, when I came on board as a commissioner in 2019, the experience of going to NAPOL changed the trajectory of how I felt about the commission, how important this work is. And we don't typically get a lot of kudos, which I don't believe anyone is looking for, but there has been a legacy of good work and dedication that has been done by the volunteers that sit at this table and the staff, current and past. So I just want to encourage you all, when there are opportunities for you to participate and grow your palette around police accountability, that you participate and be engaged. Outside of that, those are all the updates that I have. I thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, do you want to give that update, Reverend Walden?
Well, I mean, based on what you just reported to us in such a fine way, won't be any staff here for that meeting. And so I think the co-chairs came to a decision that we would suspend that meeting and wait till the next meeting, which would be the first Wednesday in November. In that meeting, we'll get an update about the two conferences and any other reports that we need to work on.
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't for sure if we had officially made a decision, so I didn't want to announce that prematurely. But yes, we are recommending that we postpone our October 19th meeting, as most staff will be traveling, trying to get back here to Seattle. And since we're still in a hybrid function, it would behoove us to postpone it. We'll have more elaborate updates for the first week of November. So giving you all a little bit of a break.
Thank you. Thank you. Any new business? Haven't been made aware of any. So we're gonna move right along because our time is coming to an end. Work groups, I believe most of them are on hiatus, but Director Cross, you might have something for community engagement that you'd like to share?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the prayer. First of all, I just want to say thank you for everything. I'm going to get you off guard. I wasn't expecting that. But I do thank you for your support, and thank you very much for your support. I'm excited. I just got a letter since we've been sitting here confirming that they're going to pay for my full trip for us to go to the bottom.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right.
More to talk about later. So anyway, I also want to say I'm super excited about our new staff coming on. I think that Director Grant and I had really took the time out and really had a great experience interviewing, reviewing the applications, and I am personally excited about the new workspace. It's a new energy. It's a great environment, and I just think very good things ahead. So for all those who have persevered with CPC, I think brighter days are ahead. Thank you, Director, for hanging in there. So as far as updates are concerned, I think you all met the new community engagement specialist in the last meeting, Margita Argo, and I was super excited to have her. She's a go-getter. She is engaged, immersed in the whole community, not just a certain part of the community, but she has connections and ties all over. Worked with a lot of different groups, so she's hitting the ground running. She's got all kind of ideas and just super excited about being able to put some of that into place. Also, the community engagement specialist, the second position has posted. It posted yesterday internally, and it will post externally after next week. And so we're looking forward to getting applications. If you guys know of anyone who's looking for a position in community engagement, please, I will send you the link for the app. And I'm looking forward to getting started with a full staff. I've been by myself the whole year, but which has been a good thing because it's given me grounding. But now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hit the community, build up our youth involvement, and just really get out there working with Geneva on some things. And so more to come. We coming at you. And we are, Margita and I have a good, robust list of topics for the upcoming community engagement meetings. And I still, as always, ask each and every one of you, if there's ever any topic you want to bring to the commission, to the engagement meetings, please don't hesitate to reach out, especially our partners. If there's any information that you want to collaborate to get out to the community, that's what we're here for. So that's what the CPC is about, is being the voice of the community. So please utilize us whenever you can. And I do want to mention that we will not be having the community engagement meeting this month. And for obvious reasons, we're just trying to get our feet back up under us. So if you could just please bear with us, but when we come back, we're coming back strong and mighty. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't believe there's any other work group updates. And
Not at this time, no, Reverend Hunter.
okay, not at this time. As we're ramping up on staff and to assist the work groups, then we will have much more to report out. And so at this point, I think we're at the conclusion of our meeting, and we want to thank everyone for coming today, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Welcome.